Hi, welcome to the Mohua show. My name is Mohua Chinnappa and I am an author, entrepreneur and ex-housewife. This podcast is about everything from business to technology to arts to lifestyle, but done and spoken ईमानदारी से. Hi, in today's episode, we have with us Samantha Kochharr, author of the book Arribada, The Arrival. Samantha has had an incredible journey from being a high-powered executive in London to becoming a shaman in India. Her book is a reflection of her spiritual journey and the lessons she has learned along the way. Join us as we explore the depths of her experience and the wisdom she has gained as she wrote the book Arribada, The Arrival.
So, like you said, I'm a shaman. We are two kinds of shamans. We are the shaman practitioner, and we are the shaman. A shaman practitioner is one that learns shamanism in this lifetime, but a shaman is the person who takes on a lineage. And so I come from a lineage of a Peruvian lineage. And yes, like you said, the shaman is someone who we are the ones who see in the dark. We are the ones who there's divination, there's a lot of energy healing. So how did I get into this? As you said, a little introduction. I'm actually, I am the daughter of a legend, the Blossom Kochharr. And so naturally, coming from the hair and beauty industry, I took on the profession and I'm still in it. I'm, the hairdressing expert for India, along with the government, and I also manage the Blossom Kochharr, group companies, along with my mother and my son. But at some point, 11 years ago, I took on my spiritual journey, and everyone has different. We take on different. There are different ways to reach the light. And for me, it was shamanism. And while I was, my practice deepened, there came a point where I realized that, with my busy schedule, I'm working from morning till evening. And then I used to keep asking my guides in my med prayer, how will I heal people? And I think the solution that was given to me was to write a book. I must confess, no literary genius. I'm terrible with my spellings. I do not know when to put a full stop and where to put, the commas. My editor had a very, very tough time with me. But all I knew is that a story was given to me. And when you're asked to do something in the spiritual realm, you do it for humankind and for the earth. This is something, as I said, is a gift.
So Samantha, I'm very tempted to ask you, what had happened about 11 years back for you to delve so deep? Was there any incident that had happened that changed your course and the way you started looking at life? Is there something that you would like to share with our listeners?
Like always in everyone's life, something happens to change. It gives us a point where we need to stop and look and reevaluate and look at really where we are, what we are doing. And in my case, it was my father's death. It was like, every little girl is her father's favorite. And so was I. Used to fight with him a lot though. But, I loved him and he loved me greatly. But I think the loss was tremendous, and I took on the business. He was the managing director of the company, and my parents decided to have only one child. Bad business decision, but anyway, and I was the only one that had to sit in his chair once he passed on. I think the grief, along with the stress of being in a position of power where you are not used to it, as well as where you have no idea what is expected of you. High expectations, and at some point, that's what I realized, and really not equipped very well to take on that position. So I think everything just resulted in me getting very sick, very stressed, excessively, bad-tempered. And at some point, like we always say, disease is a manifestation of your thoughts. And that's what happened to me. I got very, very sick. And when medicine and doctors could not help, that's when, at some point when I asked, I want to live, and I want to live a healthy and a happy life. I was directed towards alternate medication and Tibetan medicine, which I didn't even know existed. And I had started, doing these 5-7 minute meditative, practices in a day. It was very, very difficult. And once I started that medication, they assured me I was not dying. But more importantly, there also came a point where I realized that I think I want to, get back to something that would give me strength and create something around me and in me that would, get me anchored.
How amazing, Samantha. We're sharing the same sort of a journey. I'm a single child and I've lost my father in the month of August. And I've not been able to kind of look at it totally square. I try and shy away and keep away from the memories. But I just recently completed, my book of letters that I think that I wanted to address to him, and I could never do that. And it's a strange way because for me to really manage my loss is via writing and doing the work that I do. It anchors me. And I completely relate to what you're saying. But you've had such an incredible journey, from being a successful executive to becoming a shaman. How did this transformation come about?
Like you, you felt grief. You know what loss is. It leaves like a very big hole inside of you. And at some point, that hole nearly killed me. I didn't understand how to go about and heal it. Like every time we as parents and humans, like I say this always, we teach each other how to live and how to, paint and how to become a successful businesswoman, but we do not teach as a society how to heal grief. And what we tell people is that, it'll get okay. Give yourself some time and, get back to work and will fall and things will get back to line, but there's that hole that is left inside, and I think being in a very high powered position in my company, plus I came from a world of fashion and cinema and beauty. That itself is not that it's a shallow world. It's a world filled with a lot of insecurities. I didn't know where to turn, how to really, how to heal this. And that's when I started meditating, and I got my first teacher, Paul and Neelam, and they guided me, into a practice which again I resisted. I must confess, it was not something I wanted to do. I would do a little and then I would leave it. And at some point in my journey, I met my real teacher, and my real teacher in our lineage, we don't take our names and we don't think, but there are only 6 people that the lineage was transferred to, and I was one of them. It's not something mysterious or it's anything. It is when he told me that I will give you and I'll heal you, and if God, not him, but if God decides for you to, whichever God you believe in, decides for you to heal and live, then you need to give people life. And there is nothing asked in return. This is how the practice goes. And I think coming from the point where you completely surrender to the universe and say, okay, help me, save me, to be someone walking in where you wouldn't even expect them to come, and teaching you how to live and how to heal, but how to heal others. And as time went by, that is how my journey as an energy healer began. I funnily heal grief. That's what, is my specialty, is when people pass away, like you have lost your father. You know how it shatters someone's, something very, humans are very fragile. But the beauty about the human is, even though that through that fragility comes an immense power to love. because grief actually equals love. There's so much love in you. So those letters must be filled with love, and the world needs to read them. Because I bet every daughter feels the same.
Samantha, I'm speechless for a while because I really don't know what is the next question that I should ask you, because you've spoken to my heart and it is unhealed grief, but a lot of it kind of got processed, through that book of writing. Now, your book touches on themes of grief, loss, and spirituality. And I just want to understand that, in today's world, it's such a fast paced world and, everybody is on the go. And yes, there are people talking about healing and there are, many healers all across. People are talking about going back into leading a slower life, having better things to do apart from just materialism, which unfortunately one can't get out of that easily. Tell me a little bit about what is it that you think of the world that you inhabit today?
Honestly, when I look at it, and I used to remember having these conversations with my teacher, and one of the interesting things that used to come about that, I used to say that aren't we like little ants or like bees, like working the whole day and going back to our little house and the interesting thing was that what the wisdom I received over time is that is what we humans are actually born to do. We are born to come and we are born to meet people. Through these interactions and relationships, we will learn and we'll heal. We are born to work. Now, how does that work that we do become not self-centered and become have a greater value for the world and for people in our lives and around us is what is important. So yes, it is a materialistic world, and that is how it was to be, and it is to be, and it will be. But it is how you find yourself and your inner strength in it is what matters. We have to all understand that these bodies that we inhabit actually are like space suits. They are like little machines, and it's being capable of tremendous it has tremendous capabilities, but when we inhabit the space suit, we actually have to know how to switch on the right buttons. So how do we that's our in living in this life, in this materialistic life, and we will need to, like, one of the ways of really switching on this machine of ours to a greater superhuman ability is nature. How connected we get into nature. At times in days, when you get tired, you need to move into nature. We are always running out of time. That's the most beautiful part. Like, actually, time is Kal. And, knowing that it's time, you cannot kill time, time is going to kill you. But knowing that, how do you work backwards? How do you work backwards to enhance your life? And before you leave, how can you leave back something that will be good for humanity, for the earth, but more importantly for the people who you have loved? So yes, nature is one thing. The world, it is as it is to be. And sometimes this collective, there's a collective feed that happens in the universe. Like, we will say, okay, now eggs and pesto are the latest craze, and that's a feed. And all 20,000 people will be seeing Instagram and doing the same damn thing. Suddenly, after 10 days, there's another collective feed happens. This is how it is to be. But how do we find a center in between? And that is only when you start switching on the right buttons. And meditation, people say, is important, but honestly, what I feel is you don't need to meditate 20, 30 minutes a day. If you can just be with yourself 5 minutes, close your eyes, and learn to be meditative in anything and everything to you, and live life with awareness, you are on the path of being the superhuman that will change the world.
What do you hope the readers will take away, from your book?
In this book, there is the code of the superhuman, because you see, it's a download. It's like when I used to write the book, I used to, after a few hours of prayers, I used to come out of my prayer, and then I used to write for an hour and a half. This book has not been written out of prayer. It has always been written in a state of prayer. And that is why I feel like sometimes when I write, and then during the day I read it. I'm like, oh my God, where did that come from? Sometimes it never felt like I'd written it, but there's a large part of me in many characters. Like there's one character which is Ollie, and he's it's a turtle, but he has only 3.5 flippers because he was damaged when he got handicapped when he was young. And all of us feel at many times that it's nothing is possible by us because we are not complete. What can we do? We have 101 excuses, just like Ollie. So from Ollie to Joy, the other character, to Sironga, who is the wise man, all of us have these characters in us.
I am totally in agreement with you that all these characters are always within us, and it's about us to figure this one out. Can you talk a little bit about the significance of the title, Aribada, the arrival?
I must confess, took me 8 months to get that damn title because, and my editor, Sangeeta, actually. So why don't we just call it Aribada? But so Aribada actually is a Spanish term, which means the arrival of the turtles on their nesting beach. So the Kemp's olive ridley turtle, actually the one like Ollie comes from, they are born on a particular beach, and the female will lay the hatch of eggs, and she will leave. And after whatever the gestation period, they will surface these little turtles will come on top of the sand and immediately run towards the ocean. They don't look left, they don't look right. All they know is they have to go straight into the ocean. They spend actually very little time when when they hatch on that ocean, on that sand and that beach. But they go straight. Now, out of 500 to 600 hatchlings, normally only one or two survive. That is the death rate of these hatchlings. Anyway, so once they grow up and they reach a certain age and maturity, they normally travel the seas and they have feeding beaches across, whichever the path that they follow. But every year, they will, like clockwork, every of the turtle will come back to the beach they were born, and it's like they come back full circle. And that is what even the book is about. It's how do you come full circle. We are born with a divine code within us, and we need to come full circle within us to actually awaken that code and become the superhuman we are actually destined to be. And so it is the arrival, actually the title is the arrival. It means also the arrival, of course, of Ollie, as though Ollie and Joy.
Your book also explores the power of universal energy and indigenous wisdom. So can you tell us a little bit more about these concepts and how they can influence a person's life?
Honestly, the indigenous wisdom we have, like in India, it's the most shamanic country in the world. And we have so many practices, energy practices, like even our mantras and the way we pray and everything is very indigenous. It comes from long and ancient times. But all over the world, the shamans and the indigenous tribes, the shamans come from these indigenous tribes. Like you have the Mongolians, you have the Celtics, you have the shamans from North America, from Peru. And the indigenous tribes actually are the ones, the tribals are the ones that live in nature, who've learned how to live in nature. They thrive off the forest, the land, and they're one with them. And they have a very simple way of understanding. If the sand is this color, this is what may happen. They can call on rain, they can call on, they're very much connected into the heartbeat of the earth, as we say, and the sky. So the indigenous tribes, we have a lot to learn, but unfortunately, their habitats that they have inhabited for thousands of years now, many hundreds of years, they're being forced to leave, and more importantly, they really don't know how to cope in the new world when they come out from there. So I really feel sad for them, and but there's a large amount of wisdom about not only about energy practice, but more importantly about herbs, about how to heal people with different. Their different healing methods are very different. And so this is why I chose Sironka, which is Joy's teacher. He's actually a Lebon, and a Lebon is the wise man of a Maasai tribe. The Maasai, are very they are very spiritual in various ways, and also they have some practices which are very barbaric. But I worked with them. I've known them. I've read about them for many years, and I thought this was the best to actually put in the book for the world to see. How are they managing, and an example for the rest of in India, how we can also go about using the indigenous people.
So, Samantha, this has been such a turn in your life, and I'm sure many of your old associates and your friends, they may not be able to understand this entire journey of yours. So, Samantha, just take me back into that initial thing that you said that, you started to delve deep down. And then what happens is the world around us starts falling off. And I can say this to you with my own experience that, many things that I tolerated or I found myself in the past have increasingly become very, very claustrophobic for me as I get closer and closer to a part of my core. I have not had the entire spiritual light that I will hope will enter my being over the years. But definitely writing is one way of helping me reach the person that I was born, like you spoke about Ollie. Now, how do you navigate yourself in this new version of you, Samantha?
It's very difficult in the start, I must confess, because when you enter a practice, like in India, it's called sadhana. It was difficult on me because it involved many hours of prayer, many hours of meditative prayer and practices. That was part of the initiation. And, people in my family and my life were actually getting scared, like, why are you doing? Because you change your food habits nearly, you change your sleep patterns. Like you get up at ungodly hours, like 3:40, 3:50, whatever in the morning to start praying. And they also, why do you have to pray so much? Like there's not been a day that I've stopped praying. And in sickness and, even when I'm traveling, though that many hours have to be dedicated to prayer. So when I started, I will not deny that my family was very, very worried. They thought I was going cuckoo at some point. And my friends actually, I realized that I became very selective, with time, who to tell. And I kept talked to very few people about my practice. And what I realized was that at some point I was very worried to even tell people that I am who I am, because the position I was holding, they will actually think, like I said, cuckoo, or she's not fit enough for the job, and this and that. But when I was told to write the book, the first thing I asked my teacher, I said, if I have to write the book, which means I have to promote the book. And the one word that was said, that you will need to move out of the shadow. I think, and that was that's one of my learnings in this lifetime, is to actually move out of the shadow and, start talking and not feeling worried and ashamed about with my practice and who I am and what I've become. And what I've understood is that over time, when I've spoken to people, and if my life has inspired a few people, not to become shamans, but actually to seek a simple spiritual practice. So I myself was resisting to tell the world what I am and what I do and what I'm capable of with the powers and the spiritual practice that I have. My family was worried because of the onslaught of public that could have hit me. And yes, people do come back, and my old friends that knew me moved away, because I cannot be awake more than after 10:30 because I have to wake up very early. So yes, people who are important now are there in my life, who understand and accept me for what I am, and they are there. And I don't think this book was possible without my family support, my mother, my son, the love of my life, Vikram, and my editor and best and friend, Sangeeta Jain. Um, I think Mani that used to go after me and say, "What the hell are you doing?" to actually standing by me and ensuring this book is a success was the turning point for me. Friends that did not, who actually were not to be, went away from my life. But I'll also tell you one thing: the detachment that came through with the practice was very difficult for me to hold on, to the feeling of just leaving and going was very strong at some point. But then I was guided back and said, I need to be in this world, in my work, in the materialistic world, because sometimes you just need to hold the torch. And that's what I feel, that's why I've stuck around here.
So, Samantha, you also run a restaurant in Delhi, right? So, how do you balance your different passions and pursuits? So, how would you tell us a little bit about the restaurant business that you run in Delhi?
So that actually came by when my dad died. Before my father died, my dad used to always tell me, Sam, I would love to. I will invest. I'm I love to cook, and people like to eat the food I cook. So my dad used to say, if you ever want to open up a restaurant business, I'll invest in it. And I remember when he died, before he died, I was thinking of, doing something. And then he passed away. And I remember crying after 6 months at my mother, along with next to my mom. And I said, I want to get into food. And she said, listen, Sam, why don't you just cook every evening for us? And we are good clients of yours. We would love to, and develop your recipes and see what works, what doesn't. And that's what I did for 2-3 years. And then there was space one day on the top of one of our shops in Hoskas village. And my mom said, why don't you, open up a small place there? And we called it the Blossom Kochharr Tea Room. And it started with me just having a little creative outlet, like in the evenings, just going and having small little sandwiches and tea. Now, of course, it's a full-fledged place, and I have many cooks, but it's a headache. I will not deny, because my core is my business. But when I cook, I'm very happy. I'm very happy. And the recipes in this place are my family recipes, my grandmother, my great uncle, all their recipes. So it's like my family ancestors still living on in the tea room. That's why I love that place.
Thank you so much, Samantha. This is absolutely one of my favorite podcasts. And I could relate to so many parts of whatever that you spoke to me, because I think we both are navigating some parts of our journey together. Wish you all the best. And for all our listeners, whoever is trying to deal with grief, loss, suffering, and wanting to find that light, don't forget to pick up the book Aribada by Samantha Kochharr. Thank you, Samantha, for being on today's podcast.
Thank you so much for the kindness, for giving Aribada the platform to actually be read by people. And more importantly, I feel so grateful that I heard your voice and you asked me the right questions. Thank you.
To you, our dearest listeners, you can find us on your favorite streaming services, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, and of course on all other major streaming services. With loads of love, we are The Mohua Show, where we talk imandari se.